What is up, fellas? We are back for another UFC prediction video, and this time for UFC 297, Strickland versus Plessis. And before we jump right in, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who liked, commented, and subscribed on the last video. That video did really good. It's the best video on my channel, so I just want to say thank you to everybody who supported that. I appreciate it a lot. But now, let's jump right in. Opening the card at flyweight, we have Malcolm X Gordon versus Jimmy Flick. I'm going to be going with Malcolm Gordon here. I don't think either of these guys at this point in their career are particularly great, but I think Malcolm Gordon has more ways to win this fight. He is a little sussy as far as chin goes, but so is Jimmy Flick. It's really not the biggest deal, and I think Malcolm Gordon has better striking than Jimmy Flick, and I think Malcolm Gordon does possess the grappling to not get taken down by Jimmy Flick, because Jimmy Flick is majority basically submission or lose. If he doesn't get the submission, he pretty much just loses the fight. And I think Malcolm Gordon, he competed really well against Muhammad Mokaev, who's a guy who has much better takedowns than Jimmy Flick, in my opinion. I think Malcolm Gordon can keep this fight standing, and I think he can win this fight probably by like a round 2 or 3 TKO, actually. I'm going to go with Malcolm Gordon in rounds 2 or 3 over Jimmy Flick. Moving up to women's flyweight, Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Priscilla Cachoeira. They have Jasmine Jasudavicius as a minus 400, which is a little insane. I always say this isn't betting advice, but I would stay away from minus 400 women's MMA fights. I am going to be going with Jasmine Jasudavicius, but I feel like this fight's a little bit closer than that because both of these ladies kind of have similar styles and that they like to just brawl on the feet, essentially. I think Jasmine Jasudavicius has better technique on the feet, and I think she's just a better striker, slightly. Priscilla Cachoeira doesn't really have very good technique on the feet. She kind of just throws to throw and tries to walk you down. I don't think that's going to work particularly well against Jasmine Jasudavicius. I think she's too clean for that. I also think she has the grappling edge here. If she chooses to do that, she could control Priscilla, kind of like Miranda Maverick did. I think Jasmine Jasudavicius is the side here. I'm going to go with Jasmine Jasudavicius by decision here, I think. Closing out the early prelims at welterweight, Johan Lines versus Sam Patterson. There's a lot of fights on here where I don't really mind the underdog at all, and this is one of them. I think Sam Patterson's actually pretty good, despite getting chinned into oblivion in his last fight. He's going up a weight class to fight Johan Lines. Johan Lines is not very good, but if you get chinned into oblivion, you decide to move up a weight class, I feel like the last contract you should be signing is another guy with anvils for fucking hands, which happens to be Johan Lines. He's got really big power, and Sam Patterson doesn't exactly have that much of a size advantage, not like he's used to when he was fighting at lightweight. They're much closer in size here. They're closer in reach. I'm going to go with Johan Lines. I'm not super confident in him, but I can see him catching Sam Patterson. Sam Patterson is pretty open when he's striking. He kind of leaves his head and his chin just hanging out in the air. And if you do that against Johan Lines, he will land a shot, and I think it'll put Sam Patterson's lights out. I don't mind him as a dog, though. He is good still. I think he could submit Johan Lines as well if you wanted to take that side. But yeah, Johan Lines TKO. But I don't mind Sam Patterson. I think he's decent. Jumping up to the prelims at women's strawweight, Jillian Robertson versus Pauline Viana. Battle of mid. They have Jillian Robertson is almost a 3-1 favorite, huh? That's pretty insane. Uh, I'm gonna go with Jillian Robertson here. Um, I think she's got better grappling, and I haven't seen Pauline Viana really beat anybody worthwhile in the UFC. I'm going to take a glance at her record real quick. Like, her wins, Jin Yu Frey is horrible. Mallory Martin is horrible. Emily Whitmire is horrible. And then besides that, it's just a bunch of losses. I think I'm going to go with Jillian Robertson's submission. I feel like that's the side here, in my opinion. But I'm not super confident about it because she is also kind of bad. So, I don't know. Pick your poison on this one. I'm going to go with Jillian Robertson by submission. But, you know, I can't trust somebody necessarily with a 12-8 record. Moving up to bantamweight, Serhi Sydney versus Ramon Tavares. This is a fight I'm really interested to see play out because these guys have fought recently, and if you just look at their records, you'd see that Serhi Sydney has a TKO win in round 1 over Ramon Tavares. So in your head, you're like, oh, he's probably just going to do it again because that happened a couple of months ago. I'm not so sure about that. Serhi Sydney, in my opinion, because I watched the Contender Series fight when it happened a few months ago, he really did, and this is coming from somebody who bet on Serhi Sydney to win, he got gifted that finish. It was one of the earliest stoppages, one of the worst stoppages I think I've ever seen. Like, it was bad. Like, if that had happened in like a high-profile UFC card, Twitter would not have stopped yapping about that. Like, that stoppage was brutal. Terrible stoppage. Dana White didn't like it. Nobody liked that stoppage. So I don't think you can really rate that as a legitimate victory, in my opinion, over Ramon Tavares. And since then, Ramon Tavares has bounced back. He came back to the Contender Series. Dana White gave him another opportunity, and he got a first-round nasty TKO finish. And then they made this fight. And I'm a little bit torn because I think Serhi Sydney's good. I think Ramon Tavares is good. But as far as the motivation to win this fight, I think it clearly lies on Ramon Tavares because I think in his head he kind of got wronged and he kind of got that fight stolen from him. So I feel like if there's a guy who's training harder, who's more motivated for this fight, I feel like it's him. But I still think Serhi Sydney is a little bit better than him. I don't know where his head's at relative to rematching a guy that he has a win over a few months ago. I'm gonna lean to Serhi Sydney, but I would not at all be surprised if Ramon Tavares comes in here like a man possessed and wins this fight. I would not be surprised. I think he's a good dog, actually. I do, but I'm gonna go with Serhi Sydney. I think he's probably gonna be like a maybe a split decision. Like, I feel like these guys are gonna go at it on Saturday. I really do. But yeah. Moving up to featherweight, Charles Jourdain versus Shawn Woodson. I'm going to be going with Charles Jourdain here. Shawn Woodson has good hands, decent kicks. He's got insane reach. But I just haven't seen him really have a breakout performance against a decent opponent that would make me think he can beat Charles Jourdain. Like, when I look at his wins, Yusuf Zalal, decent, but he kind of fell off. Colin Anglin's bad. The Luis Saldana fight is a big reason why I don't trust this guy. If we're getting dropped twice and we should have lost to Luis Saldana, you know, it's a little bit sketchy. Dennis Bazooka took him to a 3-round decision, but he just got chinned in like 40 seconds. I don't know about Shawn Woodson. I do know about Charles Jourdain, though. Charles Jourdain, good striker. He's been a little bit more reserved lately, but I think that's to his benefit as opposed to his detriment. I think he kind of, in certain instances, got caught a little bit too much, just being wild and getting into a firefight. I think him being a little bit more patient helps him. I don't know if it's going to help him against a guy with 10 inches of reach on him, though. But where I see a clear advantage here is I think Charles Jourdain can submit Shawn Woodson pretty easily if he gets this fight to the ground. If this fight ends up on the ground, I think Charles Jourdain has a clear grappling advantage over Shawn Woodson. And I think on the feet, I think Charles Jourdain can pick at Shawn Woodson with long shots like his teep and his leg kicks and try and find his way in on Shawn Woodson to land punches in the pocket while Shawn Woodson has his long arms extended out. I'm going to go with Charles Jourdain. I think Shawn Woodson's an okay dog here, but I trust in Charles Jourdain here. I think he's going to get himself... I think he's going to get himself a submission. Yeah, I like the sound of that. We'll see. Closing out the prelims at bantamweight, we have Brad Katana versus Garrett Armfield. This is a pretty exciting fight, and another underdog that I don't really mind. Garrett Armfield, I think, is pretty good. Good hands, decent power. I think he's talented, but I really like Brad Katana, man. I think Brad Katana is quite good. He's giving up a lot of reach to Garrett Armfield, but I don't think that necessarily matters too much. Brad Katana in his last fight for the Ultimate Fighter finale, absolute crazy fight. He was fighting a guy he gave up some reach to, and that fight was insane. He was able to work his way on the inside and land good shots. I think Brad Katana is the side in this fight. I think he's just a little bit better overall when it comes to all facets of mixed martial arts, and I think he's fought better guys just outright. I think he's got better wins on his record. He's got more experience. I'm going to lean Brad Katana. I think Brad Katana is going to get himself a decision here because I think he's just a little bit better, and he's been in there with better opponents than Garrett Armfield, in my opinion. Opening up the main card at featherweight, Arnold Allen versus Movsar Evloev. Now, this is a fight that I've gone back and forth on because I think both of these guys are like borderline top 5 on their best day. I think both of these guys are really talented. And for a while, I was really leaning towards picking Movsar Evloev, but the closer it gets to fight night, I kind of have begun to lean a little bit more towards Arnold Allen after watching some of his old fights back. And I'll kind of go into that. I think Arnold Allen in this fight has the striking upside. Evloev's hands, they look good when you watch them, but there's just times where I find him, I don't know if you guys have seen this when you watch him fight, I feel like he gets stung on the feet a lot. Like, I feel like I've seen Evloev hurt on the feet a lot. And I feel like Movsar is going to want to force the takedown on Arnold Allen. And Arnold Allen is pretty good at throwing counter hooks on the back foot. And I could see him catching Evloev with that shot. Not necessarily putting Evloev out with it, because Arnold Allen doesn't have punching power. And neither does Evloev, to be honest. And none of these guys really are finishers. They're mostly decision fighters. But I think he can sting Evloev with those counter shots. And if he does sting him with that counter shot, if he's trying to get inside so he can go for one of his double legs, I think it might deter him from wanting to grapple if he keeps getting stung by counter hooks on the back foot. I think Arnold Allen is good enough if he gets taken down. He's a fighter who, there's fighters when they get taken down, they lay on their back and they like to play rubber guard. They like to play their guard game and they piss away time and cost themselves rounds. Arnold Allen is not that kind of grappler. When his back hits the mat, he's like, okay, time to get up. I like that against a guy who's predominantly a heavy wrestler, not so much a heavy submission threat. Obviously, Evloev can submit him, but it's not like he's got Charles Oliveira on his back, you know what I mean, when he's trying to get up from a takedown. Evloev's more of a position over submission kind of guy, if you get what I'm saying. I think Arnold Allen might be the side here. I think he's better on the feet. I think his movement is a little underrated and a little under talked about for this fight. I don't think he's gonna back up in straight lines to give Ivalov easy shots for a double leg. I think he might move laterally, side to side, so Ivalov might have to go single. I think this is a hard fight for both guys, but I like Arnold Allen as an underdog in this fight. I think he can win, so I'm gonna go with Arnold Allen. I think he's gonna get a decision over Movsar Ivalov here. Although Ivalov is still very dangerous and he's very fucking high level, so he could still win this fight, obviously. But I'm gonna go with Arnold Allen just because I've seen some things he's done well that I think could be applied to this fight pretty well. Moving up to middleweight, Chris Curtis versus Marc-Andre Barral. This, I think, is going to be fight of the night. This fight might be kind of sick, fellas. Both of these guys, strikers. Both of these guys put out a lot of volume. Both of these guys, very entertaining to watch strike. I'm looking forward to this one. I'm going to go with Chris Curtis here. I don't mind Marc-Andre Barrial's chances, but I think Chris Curtis has more experience, obviously, against better competition than Marc-Andre Barral. Marc-Andre Barral, he's a volume striker who tries to overwhelm his opponents with his pace and his pressure and his volume. But he's been going into kind of shootout battles on the feet with fighters who I don't think are all that good on the feet, like Eric Anders. I think Eric Anders is pretty terrible. Who else? Let me see. Julian Marquez. He finished Julian Marquez, but Julian Marquez on the feet, I don't know if you should be taking him into round 2, really, if he's only on the feet with you. He beat Jordan Wright, Dasha Louis Gambola. I'm not super impressed by these wins, but when I look at Chris Curtis's record, the guys he's getting into wars with on the feet, Kelvin Gastelum, that fight is a little bit of a, you need an asterisk on that decision loss because they gave Kelvin Gastelum the second round off of a headbutt that dropped Chris Curtis. Fought Joaquin Buckley on the feet, finished him in round 2. Destroyed Rodolfo Vieira, and I think this fight, the Rodolfo Vieira fight, is going to be the Chris Curtis we see here, because Marc-Andre Barral uses his stamina and his endurance to kind of wear on guys. Chris Curtis has very nasty body shots, and you saw that against Rodolfo Vieira. He landed like 60 of them on him and just absolutely zapped his gas tank from all of the shots to the body. I think he can do something similar to Marc-Andre Barral here and kind of lessen the pace that he's trying to set. I think this fight is going to be a war, though, and I don't mind either side, but I'm going to trust in Chris Curtis. I think he's a better boxer. I think he mixes up his strikes to the head and the body a lot better. I think he's a little bit cleaner. I think he's got more power, too. I think he's got more of a finishing upside. I think I'm going to go with Chris Curtis here. I think he's going to win by TKO in, like, round 2. Moving up to welterweight, we have Neil Magny versus Mike Mallet. I'm going to be going with Mike Mallet. I don't like him at minus 370 at all, but I just feel like at this point in Neil Magny's career, he's kind of on the downtrend. He looked pretty bad against Ian Gary. I just feel like Mike Mallet has the ability to just kind of run Neil Magny over pretty quickly. Now I could eat my words on this, but I feel like Mike Mallet, he's a pretty explosive striker. He's an explosive grappler too. I feel like he's going to take Neil Magny down pretty early and just submit him with like a rear naked choke or like an arm triangle. I feel like that's the easiest way to get Neil Magny out of there in the least amount of time. And I definitely feel like Mike Mallet's capable of that. He definitely doesn't want to drag out this fight against Neil Magny, because if it starts getting into the second and third round, that's where you give Neil Magny a chance at coming back and overwhelming you. But I don't think that's going to happen to Mike Mallet. I think he's going to come out there like a man possessed in his hometown and try and get the dub early over Neil Magny. I think he's going to do it. I think he's going to find himself a submission in like rounds 1 or 2, I think. The co-main event for the women's bantamweight title, Raquel Pennington versus Mara Bueno Silva. I'm going to go with Mara Bueno Silva here over Raquel Pennington. I think as far as striking goes, I think both of these ladies are pretty even. Maybe you could give the slight edge to Raquel Pennington, but I don't even know if I would. But where I think the most important aspect of this fight is, I think it's the grappling, and I think Mara Bueno Silva has a grappling upside, especially submission-wise over Raquel Pennington. I mean, Mara Bueno Silva has like a standing guillotine over Holly Holm, which is pretty impressive. Not a lot of people are doing that to Holly Holm, even at her current age. Mara Bueno Silva competed decently well against Manon Fiorot. I think she's better than Raquel Pennington, just kind of outright. Raquel Pennington's decent, but I think Mara Bueno Silva is going to find a submission over Raquel Pennington in like round 2. And closing out the card with the main event for the middleweight title, Shawn Strickland versus Dricus du Plessis. Fellas, I'm not sure about this one. I see this fight as a true 50-50. Whichever side you're on, I think has value and can easily beat the other side. But at this moment, I'm sitting down recording this right now, right this second. I'm slightly leaning towards Shawn Strickland right now. And I'm going to get into why. Dricus du Plessis has a good style to beat Shawn Strickland. That's why I'm so torn on this. Because he walks forward, he has big power so he can get respect from Strickland, and he's very durable. Generally, that would be the style to beat Shawn Strickland. But Dricus is also terrible. That's a joke. He's not that bad. I think Dricus is pretty good. But Shawn Strickland is very defensively responsible most of the time, unless he's fighting Alex Pereira. Then he walks into range with his hands down. I don't think he's going to do that with Dricus du Plessis. I think he's learned the lesson there. Defensively, Shawn Strickland, very responsible. You saw it in his Adesanya fight. He didn't get touched against one of the best kickboxers in the UFC. Literally didn't get touched. Over 5 rounds. It's going to be harder to defend the strikes of Dricus du Plessis because he weirdly extends himself out and extends his combinations. He kind of just throws. Even if the first 3 shots don't land, Dricus will finish the combination out. And I think that's maybe where, in that kind of dead zone, he can catch Shawn Strickland by just throwing an extra shot out there at the end of a combo that maybe Shawn Strickland isn't ready for. And I think you could catch him that way, and I think that could be a way Dricus du Plessis wins. But I think Shawn Strickland, at this point in his career, I mean, how many 5-round fights has Shawn Strickland been in? He's been in like 6. He's got a ton of experience. He's got title fight experience now. I think Shawn Strickland has obviously better striking than Dricus du Plessis, generally. Much better boxing. And I think he's got much better cardio. I know a lot of people are like, oh, Dricus doesn't really get tired that much, or his cardio's good now. And I agree to an extent. But I feel like, as this fight would enter potentially rounds 4 and 5, I feel like Dricus will definitely be tired. Because we've never seen him in rounds 4 and 5, but we've seen him tired in round 2. Granted, his nose was blocked off, but still. I don't know if I trust a guy with a potentially sus gas tank. Because he looked good against Brad Tavares, even though he was sucking air at the end of that fight. It was a 3-round decision. He was throwing out more volume than Brad Tavares, right? But I don't know. Man, this fight is just such a 50-50. I don't think... A lot of people have said Dricus has a grappling upside. I don't really see that. I don't really see a huge advantage in the grappling for Dricus. He's very big, he's very strong, and he can muscle probably Shawn Strickland to the ground. But I feel like Shawn Strickland just gets up from that. Like, I feel like he pops up pretty easily. When Abus Magomedov, a guy of similar build and apparent strength to Dricus du Plessis, took him down, Shawn Strickland kind of just popped up, like, immediately. I feel like that's probably what would happen with Dricus du Plessis. However, I feel like Dricus has a much better submission game than a guy like Abbas Magomedov. You know, not a lot of people even realize this, but Dricus has more submission wins than TKO wins, I believe, on his record. So he's got some decent chokes. So it could be sketchy for Shawn Strickland. I'm almost talking myself into picking Dricus du Plessis the longer I go, the longer I talk about this, honestly. Man, this is a real pick'em. You know, I've picked against Dricus du Plessis, and he has proven me wrong. You're about to watch this live. I'm about to change my pick live. I'm gonna go with Dricus du Plessis. Fuck. I actually changed my mind mid-video. You know, the more I talked about it, the more I'm kind of like, fuck. He might actually be able to beat him. Yeah, I'm going to go with Dricus du Plessis for reasons, I guess, previously mentioned. Because I was going over the ways Dricus could win, and I was like, man, there seems to be a lot of these reasons he could win. I'll talk about how Shawn Strickland could win. Obviously, weaponizing his pace, weaponizing his boxing, and keeping defensively responsible. Because Dricus does leave a lot of openings on the feet. And basically, play patient and wither this guy's gas tank down as it enters the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rounds. I think Shawn Strickland's easily capable of doing this. But honestly, now that I've said it, I feel like Dricus is going to win. But yeah, this fight's a fucking 50-50, guys. You just watched me flip-flop live on camera. Let me know your picks in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys next time. See ya.